Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It was sales day today at Toyota. We ended up selling a heap, so it was a fun day in sales today. But topic on hand, Pokemon, Pokemon, Pokemon. And you've seen that figure on the title there. What we're going to do today, we're going to compare property to Pokemon. Now, I'll get into it in a second, but first of all, if you're someone that's subscribed, thanks heaps for watching. If you're someone new to my videos, please have a look, check them out, consider subscribing, it would mean a heap. Let's keep this channel moving forward. If you've got any commentary down below about this video, please let me know. I'm interested to hear from you. But property versus Pokemon. Now, first of all, I want to make a bit of a disclaimer. I don't recommend people to invest the amount of money that I'm suggesting, maybe, or maybe you could, if you got that much disposable, into collectibles. At the end of the day, property is proven. So over years, yes, it has its dips and troughs and peaks and lows, but, property has generally or has trended north along a pretty common trend line for the last, since its inception. Land and property, they're pretty stable investments. So I'm not suggesting put your money into Pokemon rather than property. This is just an exercise. It's an exercise to see what would have happened. So what we're going to do, we're going to rewind all the way back, well, not even all the way back, we're going to rewind back to 2019, just before COVID. So the year's 2019, it's 4 years ago. We're going to compare what would have happened if we'd invested $850,000 in Pokemon compared to $850,000 in property. Now, you could argue Pokemon's had a massive boom over the last 4 years. We've had COVID, we've had influencers jump in, we've had 25th anniversary, and we've had a heap of things happen, and it's gone berserk in 2020, 2021. But the same thing can ring true for property. Property has also seen massive growth, like unrivaled growth, arguably, over the last couple of years throughout COVID, similar to what the trading card, collectible card, Pokemon card world has done. So I'm not saying it's a like-for-like comparison, but they've both undergone the same sort of economic climate and circumstances and global impacts. So let's see how it pans out. Let's start with property, right? Now, during COVID in Australia, and apologies to the US viewers here, everything today is in Australian dollars because it's hard to translate property prices into Australian dollars, and there's a heap of figures in this. So bear with me, stick around. There's going to be a lot of numbers on the screen. Hopefully it all makes sense. The other disclaimer I want to say is I'm not a property expert. I know a little bit about it, but not heaps. So don't hang, draw, and quarter me in the comments like, oh, that percentage was 2% off. Or anyway, let's keep moving forward. So property in Australia saw some rapid growth throughout COVID, and none more so than down in Tasmania. So Tasmania is an island situated to the south of Australia. It had some really strict border control, and basically it was COVID-free, whereas the rest of mainland Australia was suffering huge impacts from COVID. And, everyone in Tasmania was sort of free to move around and do as they please. Bars were open, clubs were open, restaurants were open. You could sort of do what you wanted to do, and that made it a bit of a safe haven and a bit of a getaway, and investors from the mainland or buyers from the mainland were moving down in droves, and property prices absolutely soared down here. Now, Hobart's the capital, so we're going to jump into Hobart. Here's a property I just picked up, right? Sold in 2019, August 2019 at Acton Park. So pretty much bang on 4 years ago, it sold. So purchased by the buyer for $850,000. Now, we're going to presume in this scenario that you've got cash. So you won't need, in Australia, lender's mortgage insurance, and you won't be paying interest throughout this 4 year period on the loan, just to make the property seem a little bit stronger, so to speak. So $850,000 purchase price. Let's run through the costs that you're going to have there so we can work out our exact profit that we've made, because this property sold in 2023 for $1.35 million. So in 4 years, it went up $500,000 in value. Now, that is sort of unprecedented, but because of the impacts of COVID and everything else that's gone on, a lot of properties saw that sort of growth in that 4 year period. So anyway, let's work out our costs so we can work out our exact profit. $850,000 purchase price. Now, on that purchase price, you're going to be paying stamp duty of $33,435. We're excluding lender's mortgage insurance because we're working off the fact that you've just paid for that outright, which I know is rare, but it's your investment property, so you're paying for it outright. Now, you're going to have some land tax over 4 years, which is going to work out to be pretty much bang on $3,000 for that property. You're also going to have some, well, actually, $2,900 is the exact price, but anyway, conveyancing fees to sort out your legal paperwork, $1,700. You'd probably want to get a building inspection before you bought it. They're anywhere from $300 to $1,000. Let's work off the lower side, $300. Insurance across the 4 years on the property, you're sort of $1,000 a year for insurance, so you're going to be somewhere around $4,000. Let's work off some incredibly low maintenance costs of $1,000 a year. That's, doing the gardening and maybe fixing something inside the house that's maybe broken. So we're going to work off $4,000 for maintenance costs, council rates. We're just going to work off $500 a year. So you're looking at $2,000 for the 4 years. So all in all, if we add up all our costs on top of the $850, we're sitting at bang on and a smidgen over, so $900,600 in costs. Now, you can make some deductions across that. So let's say hypothetically we made some deductions of $20,000. So $900,600 minus $20,000 is $880,600. So a current sale price, this is how we're going to work out our profit. Current sale price, $1.35 million minus $880,600 gets us to a profit of $469,400. Now, in Australia, you've got to pay capital gains tax on that profit. But if you've owned it for over 12 months as your investment property, as in you haven't flipped it inside of 12 months, but you've kept it for over 12 months, you get a 50% reduction on what you need to pay the capital gains tax on. So $234,700, and let's say you're getting taxed at 40%, okay, you're going to have to subtract, there's going to be $93,880 of capital gains tax there. So we're going to work off our total profit, $469,400 minus the tax of $93,880 gets us to, I guess, a net profit after cost and taxes of $375,520. Now, if you're a property investor and you know it way better than me, please don't hang, draw and quarter me in the comments for making a mistake there. I'm not a property investor. I don't do conveyancing. I don't know the industry like I know the car industry. I don't work in real estate. So apologies if I made a slight error there. But I don't think it's realistic. If it's gone from $850 to $1.35 million, the point is, after fees and taxes and charges and everything else in between, you've pocketed yourself somewhere around $375,000. And a little shout out to Acton Park. If you don't know where it is, beautiful spot. If you don't know Hobart, it's the capital city of Tassie. It's a beautiful spot, beautiful food, nice wine, beautiful scenery, cold in winter, but heats up in summer pretty nicely around the 30-degree mark on a few days. So shout out to Hobart. Give me a thumbs up if you're from Tassie or down in Hobart. But well, that's that. $375,000 profit in 4 years. That's pretty good going. Let's move on to Pokemon, and this is where it gets interesting because 2019 was a golden era, wasn't it? Like it was. The sets that come out, you had Team Up, you had Unbroken Bonds, you had Unified Minds, you had Hidden Fates, and you had Cosmic Eclipse, all launched in 2019. Arguably one of the greatest years, if not the greatest modern year in Pokemon history. They are 5 absolutely stellar sets. They were printed quite heavily, but nowhere near to the extent of what Sword and Shield block sets got printed at, and particularly Team Up. You've all probably heard on the grapevine that Team Up wasn't printed much at all. In fact, it never got a reprint. It was one and done, and hence the booster box prices for Team Up, as well as being a great set, but it does bring into play that whole supply-demand thing. It's a low printed set, so pricing has gone up in comparison to some of those other tag team sets. Right. Here's the thing. In Australia, and this is off the ATO website, there is no capital gains tax to be paid on something that is purchased under $500. So, for the purpose of this whole video, we're going to exclude Hidden Fates so we can just focus on the 4 main sets with booster boxes. Now, we're also going to go off the fact of, and these sort of recommended retail price was US dollars, somewhere around 100, so Australian dollars, somewhere around 170 to 180. But just to work in round figures and to pump it up a little bit to not make Pokemon look like it's smashing property so much, let's round it up to $200. Say after postage or whatever, because it's going to be hard to find that volume of booster box. Let's say you paid $200 per box. So you've spent $850,000 on Pokemon booster boxes. Again, this is just a comparison. There's probably only one man in the world that does this, and that's probably Rudy from Alpha Investments. But $850,000 divided by 200, because that's how much you're paying per box, gets you 4,250 Pokemon booster boxes. Now, I know this is probably going to be incredibly hard to get your hands on. I suppose this is a bit of a hypothetical scenario more than anything. If we divide that by the 4 main sets, 4,250 divided by 4 gets us to 1,062 of each of the 4 sets. Now, if we look at the movements that those 4 sets have had, Team Up has gone from $200 a box, and I'm pricing these on the low side, mind you. I've gone to latest eBay sales and I've wound it back a little bit. So Team Up in Australian dollars is selling from anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000. In some cases more. There's been boxes that have gone for $4,000, but I'm just going to work off $2,500. So as a percentage increase from $200 to $2,500, it's gone up 1,150% in 5 years. If we move on to unbroken bonds, $200, and again, I'm on the low side because these are starting to push in Australian dollars. These are starting to push $1,000 a box. There's been sales at $950, $960, $980. There's also been a sale a couple of months ago at $850, so I'm going to work off the low side. $200 to $850 is a 325% increase for unbroken bonds. Unified Minds, there's now sales north of $1,000. There's heaps on there for $1,050, $1,100. I'm going to go again low side. Sales a couple of months ago around that $900, $950 mark. So Unified Minds, $200 to $950 is a 375% increase. And finally, Cosmic Eclipse. Big sales as well, not quite as strong as Team Up, but there's sales around 1,400 Australian, 1,300 Australian, even pushing 1,500 Australian. But like I said, we're going on the low side. There was a couple of sales a month ago for $1,200. So $200 to $1,200 for Cosmic Eclipse is a 500% increase. Now, if we average those out, because we're using the same number of boxes for each set, it's an average percentage increase of 587.5%. It also works out to be an average box price of $11.75, because obviously we've got Team Up there, and we've got unbroken bonds sitting on the low side of those 4 sets. So it works out to be $1,175 average box price. So if we sold all of them at exactly $11.75, of course, $11.75 times 4,250 booster boxes gets us to $4,993,750. Now that's dream time. We're not really going to get that because there's costs involved in selling Pokemon products too. It's also more difficult than property, of course. Property is one done. And I also didn't put agency fees for listing the property on the property one, but that would come into account anyway as well. You've got to individually sell 4,250 booster boxes, and selling them all at once is going to flood supply onto the market and make it incredibly difficult. So like I was saying, this is a hypothetical scenario. You might have to sell these across 12 months or 18 months or 24 months to get what you're wanting for them. But anyway, let's say in a hypothetical world, we sold all 4,250 boxes at $11.75, we get to $4,993,750. eBay will charge you 30 cents per sale, which is going to be $1,275. So we need to deduct that off. They're going to be 13.5% eBay fees, which across that many or that amount of sales and money is $674,150 in eBay fees. And let's say we covered postage, so we're not charging the customer postage, just to make it as fair and reasonable as we can. If you're at $15 postage per box, you're at $63,750 postage. So if we minus those 3 costs off our profit, so $4,993,750 minus $1,275 minus $674,150, which is our 13.5% eBay fees, and minus the $63,750 you're going to pay in postage, it still leaves us with $4,254,575 in profit. Compare that to property. I'll bring them both up on the screen here. Your $375 in property, or $375,520 versus $4,254,575. Now, like I was saying, this is a hypothetical scenario. I know, don't comment in, oh, this is stupid analysis, but hey, people have jumped, like, look at Rudy, he's jumped in on Sword and Shield. And I know this is a perfect time for Pokemon. It was just before that boom, as was property though, just before a big boom, but with Pokemon, it was definitely before a massive boom. And these 4 sets from the last Sun and Moon era were quite short printed in comparison to what they are now. And they're fantastic sets, but there's nothing to say something similar, and it's probably not going to happen to that degree. But what happens right now if you bought yourself $850,000 worth, and not that we have that spare money, I certainly don't, but what happens if you did? Go out and buy yourself $850,000 worth of Astral Radiance, Brilliant Stars, Lost Origin, and Silver Tempest. 4 Trainer Gallery sets, 4 old art sets, some good, strong chase cards in a Charizard-based set, a Giratina there, a Lugia in Silver Tempest. I wonder where that's going to end up in 5 years. 850 grand in those sets, at an average, just plucking a number out of the air, but an average of 200 Australian a box. Where's that going to get you in 5 years' time? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts below. I thought it was just an interesting comparison to do more than anything else. So I'd love to hear some thoughts down below. Look forward to hearing you guys. Let me know your comments and thoughts. This is Michael on PokeOz, and I'll catch you next time.